Chapter 1979 No Regrets. Part 2. The dragon spear goddess on the scene was precisely the silver dragon princess in real life. Yet, those who had never witnessed the scene in real life felt puzzled because the dragon spear goddess did not seem to be the same as the silver dragon princess. There was an ineffable feeling to her. That person was not Yuna. In fact, she was Naya. Lan Muzi said, to be fair to the other girls, since you already have someone in mind, Junior Naya, we'll let you have first pick of the person you like in this fourth segment, destined for 3 reincarnations. All of us would like to know the lucky guy who has our dragon spear goddess's attention. Naya nodded. Okay, I'll go first then. Lan Muzi made an inviting gesture. All right. So, let's invite number 18, Junior Naya, to approach the person whom she admires. I wonder if the boys can feel their hearts beating faster. Naya smiled. She did not seem to have moved when her body flashed with silver light. The lotus leaf beneath her feet had floated out lightly. There was a wake on the lake surface as she headed straight toward the boy's side. Tang Weilin could hear the breathing sounds beside him becoming labored. He could also hear the excited, thumping heartbeats. Without question, the boys were highly excited currently. The lotus leaf drifted closer. Naya's pretty face had the same sweet smile. The closer she got, the more apparent the impact her awesome beauty had on the boys. Despite the inner court boys having calm composures, they were currently bedazzled by her beauty. If a man could marry such a wife, what more could he wish for? Pick me, pick me. Almost everyone cried out in their hearts. She's close, she's getting close. 100 meters, 80 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters. The beautiful lady was only a few meters away from them. Everyone's breathing became heavy. One of the boys could not restrain himself as he unleashed his martial soul directly. Circles of dazzling soul rings rose from beneath his feet as he displayed his strength. In the next instant, more than half the boys shone with the glow from their soul rings. For a time, a riot of colors broke out on Sea God Lake surface. 10 meters. Only 10 meters left. The eyes of the boy closest to Naya were bulging. He kept staring with his wide-open eyes as the peerless beauty came toward him. The feeling was simply exhilarating. There was a killing intent in Tang Weilin's gaze. He stared at the boy as his hands were already tightly balled into fists. At this very moment, the lotus leaf under Naya's feet suddenly drew an arc on the water's surface. The graceful arc deviated silently and went straight toward Tang Weilin. No, to be more precise, it was in the direction of Long Yue. Naya was getting close to him. She was only a few meters away from him. Tang Weilin's eyes bulged. No, Naya, you can't pick him. He's from the Douluo Empire. Tang Weilin would have loved to strangle Long Yue right now. On the shore side, the outer court disciples were in an uproar. Many of them could no longer restrain themselves and started yelling. If their dragon spear goddess picked an exchange student from the Douluo Empire as her partner, it would be unacceptable for everyone. The lotus leaf under Naya's feet slowed down noticeably. She glanced at Tang Weilin whose eyes were bulging. When she saw Tang Weilin's hands tightly balled into fists as he glared menacingly at Long Yue, she could not help covering her cute lips in a graceful motion and let slip a laugh. A silver light flashed faintly and the lotus leaf picked up speed once more. When she was about 3 meters from Long Yue, the lotus leaf flew away silently and drew another arc on the water's surface as it floated to Tang Weilin's side. Her lotus leaf touched Tang Weilin's lightly. She raised her head and stuck out her tongue slyly at him. Long Yue was stunned. The other boys were also stunned. Tang Weilin himself was equally stunned. He was still Naya's elder brother at the time. Female number 17 who had not taken off her bamboo hat trembled slightly, but she quickly regained her composure. During the minute when they were allowed to choose whether to take off their bamboo hats or keep them on, she did not show any signs of movement at all. She remained the only person who had yet to take off her bamboo hat. Tang Weilin, who was momentarily stunned, began to react to the turn of events. He could not be sure whether to laugh or cry. This young girl, her little prank will be the end of me yet. As he looked at Naya's sly smile, Tang Weilin could not help raising his hand to ruffle her hair. You cheeky girl, tee-hee. Naya giggled and stuck out her tongue. His eyes were full of love and her smile full of sweetness. For a while, they kept everyone in misery. The glow from the soul rings of the various male students obviously grew stronger. If it were not for the few elders on the tower ship holding everyone back, they might have carried out the taking of partners by force segment immediately. Tang Weilin said in a low voice, are you making trouble on purpose? Naya curled her red lips. How is this making trouble on purpose? Can't I pick you, brother? Or do you want me to choose someone else? Tang Weilin grunted. I'll deal with you after this festival is over, you naughty girl. Tang Yimeng said with a faint smile. All right, we'll proceed with this segment. Now, the participants will draw lots to determine their turns to choose their partners. Before choosing their partners, the girls can make a request or pose a question to the boy they're interested in. They can then decide afterward. Junior Naya, have you forgotten about this? However, Naya waved at her. She replied sweetly, I don't need it. I think no one else knows him better than I do. According to the rules, the female students who have not removed their bamboo hats in this segment must wait until the final moment before they're allowed to make their choice. Female number 17, will you pick the male student whom you admire? All of Tang Weilin's awkwardness disappeared in this instant. His gaze sailed 100 meters across the lake's surface and landed directly on that girl. Everyone's gaze was also concentrated on her. This was especially true for those who had already guessed her identity. Under everyone's focus stares, female number 17 shook her head lightly after a brief moment of silence. Her movement was very slight and simple, but it made Tang Weilin, standing atop his lotus leaf, feel as if he had fallen into an abyss. She shook her head. She did not make a choice. She really did not pick him. She had not picked anyone, or even removed her bamboo hat. Without a doubt, this meant that she had no one whom she admired, and she was not interested in finding her partner in this year's Sea God's fated date festival. Tang Weilin felt as if something had suddenly taken hold of his heart. He immediately found it hard to breathe. His eyes were slightly blurred, and the edges of his lips now had a faint bitterness. Everything that they had experienced together overflowed in his heart. Why did you not pick me? Every encounter was a reunion after a long separation. He had been looked down upon because of his lack of talent, fought with his roommate soon after he entered the academy and was assigned to class 5, which was the weakest. All these were sent his way by destiny. He had felt helpless once and was lost also. Even if his heart and mind were strong, in the darkness, he was still a child. In the unseen world, he had met someone after a long wait. It was a peaceful, sunny day. Thin wisps of clouds hung in the skies. The gentle breeze brought a faint aroma with it. On the field where everyone was drenched in sweat, he met with a pure white figure unexpectedly. She had delicate and pretty features, long black hair and black eyes. She seemed to have a strange air about her as she walked. Why are you wearing iron chains? To train my body, of course. Teacher has higher expectations of me. You're sharp. When they were eating, she seemed to have taken notice of his shocking appetite. She passed him her own buns. I can't finish mine. You can have them. A single gesture had pulled them closer to each other. Everything happened smoothly just like an old friend who was concerned. She was Gu Yue, and like the deep waters of an ancient well, she held many secrets within her. She was also like the broad, cold moon which cleared and brightened his eyes. He was a humble blue silver brass, while she was the beloved child blessed by the elements. One of them went with the flow, while the other went against it. In the rapid turn of time, they were reunited with each other after a long separation. I've been hugging you tightly no matter which side you took. They displayed a tacit agreement in the class promotion tournament and assisted each other in the spirit ascension platform. They became friends in the truest sense of the word. When he came back smelling like barbecue, she could tell that he had met with another girl. When his crystallized form fell from midair, she got him with her own body without hesitation to prevent him from shattering. I'm cold toward others. I'll only smile for you. When faced with the choice of whether she wanted to join the Tang sect, her answer was no. He was afraid. He was afraid that the people around him would leave one after the other, just like his parents and little sister had done. Who says I'm leaving you? I've only chosen not to enter the Tang sect, not leave class 0. Joining or not joining an organization doesn't change my being at all. I won't leave you. I'll be with you forever. When they were young, time trickled sluggishly as they snuggled up to each other warmly. On the soul bus, the sea was to the east. It was a boundless patch of blue, and the sea seemed to melt into the skies. He looked at the beautiful scenery which flitted past the window. In a daze, he softly called out the name of his little sister. A silver silhouette disappeared from his mind as quickly as it appeared. When he opened his eyes, what he saw was her astonished look. She smiled faintly and gave him a glass of water. There was only plain water inside the glass. Its temperature was perfect, and it nourished his heart. The sunlight fell on her face, which seemed to make her skin glitter in a translucent manner, he realized, as if for the first time, just how beautiful she was. The sparkling glow from the sun made her rest her head gently on his shoulder. Her breathing gradually calmed down. Without realizing it, he shut his eyes as well. His body felt warm and fuzzy. All his exhaustion silently faded away amidst the feeling of the moment. There were hardly any words. This scene was like a monochrome fragment of the years they spent together. With you, I would not be sad even if I died. At the Spicy Alliance tournament, she was suddenly attacked and could not react in time. The only thing she could do was bind her own hands and await her death. Suddenly, her body felt warm. He had hugged her and used his back to bear the brunt of the attack. Bright red blood flowers bloomed in her eyes, but there was no sadness or regret on his face. There was only a faint smile. How I wish I can accompany you on the roads that you'll take in the future. But I'll never forget my original intention. I want to protect you like this forever. You, whom I hold so dear. Unfortunately, this may be the last time I'll be able to do this. She was flustered. She cared not about using up her own life force. She utilized her purest life's light to mend his damaged body. She did not care. She wanted him to live on. You've said that there's no contract in the world that can surpass the friendship between two persons who share the same fate. Although you've grown up, you're still you. Time flew by as swiftly as an arrow. Months flashed past like a weaver's shuttle. 3 years had gone by. For some unknown reason, her attitude toward him had changed. She was not as friendly as she had been, and she even seemed to be distancing herself from him. They sat for the highest hall examination. They passed, but she was still distant. I don't want to. She hit you. I'm not happy. She turned around and looked straight into his eyes. There was no suspicion or reluctance on her part. She stated her reason plainly, without being open to other options. Thank you. Thank you for still being the person who'd do anything for me. So, nothing has changed after all. When I have the ability to obtain justice, I'll come back. She was picked on. Faced with the imposing manner of the elders, he did not have an ounce of fear within him. He stood beside her, being neither haughty nor humble. This was because she, who was being picked on, was the person he wanted to protect. Tell me, is there justice in Shrek Academy? The answer was resolute and scornful. He felt powerless. In the face of absolute strength, was he truly unable to protect others, even his own companions? He raised his head. Elders, I forfeit my rights to take up Shrek Academy's entrance examination. One day, when I have the ability to obtain justice, I'll come back. For her, he wanted to give up on his ideals. Even if the world deserted you, I'd still walk by your side. He had not returned the whole night. She waited without saying a word. She leaned on a great tree with her eyes closed. A few drops of dew hung on her long lashes. Under the illumination of dawn, the entire scene looked like a scroll painting. He looked at her in a daze. This moment was seared deeply into the depths of his heart. You're awake. Why are you sleeping here? It was already very late, and you hadn't come back. I came out to look for you, but I saw you meditating still, so I didn't disturb you. She said it plainly as if she was talking about something insignificant. There was a smile at the corners of his lips. He did not know why, but when he looked at the young lady before him, he had no intention of saying thank you. Life did not always need grand and spectacular surprises. Sometimes, being simple and nonchalant was enough. Even if we disband, I'll still follow you. They had had a quarrel among their team. The others had disagreed with his opinion. For the others, crafting a battle armor using a spirit alloy was too lofty a goal and unthinkable, like a divine steed which soared across the heavens. However, she believed in him completely standing at his side without hesitation. Forget it. I think I've been indulging in my wildest fantasies. No, I want to craft my one-word battle armor using a spirit alloy. When she saw her stubbornness and determination, at that moment, his heart was filled with warmth. With you by my side, why should I be afraid even if I had to go against the whole world? Martial soul fusion. I'm in you, and you're in me. When they were faced with a powerful opponent, he still stood in front of her. He knew that they would surely lose, but he was not timid or overly cautious. He was a person who could bear with her pride and waywardness, just because it was her. He was a person who would trade his life for hers to protect her. Her gaze gradually became lost. She opened her arms just like that and embraced him tightly from behind. There was no hesitation, only complete trust from her body and mind. Everything seemed to return to the days of their youth. At that time, he was still a little boy who admired his senior. On the other hand, she was still a little girl who loved to quarrel. There seemed to be a vast dome above their heads which witnessed this mighty ritual. They had won, but they had fainted. Her hands seemed as if they had grown out of his body. The two of them could not be separated no matter what. They had obtained victory and glory while they were in each other's arms. When two people traveled on conflicting roads, their fates might be severed. What endured forever were surely their martial souls and the bond between their spirits. Were they not each other's partner? The enormous scenes in the sky began to turn into a chaotic mess with fragments of memories appearing continuously in flashes. It was too much for the eyes to take in, yet for some unknown reason, an ineffable sorrow filled everyone's heart. When one's spiritual power was powerful to the extent of the divine consciousness, one's emotions would not only touch others but would even affect others. The powerful thought concretization was already contagious on its own. Hence, it affected every single person's emotion on the scene. The scene was obviously in a chaotic mess. Nevertheless, the feelings that Tang Wulin once felt would be experienced by everyone. They felt what he felt, and they grew sadder together with him. On the other hand, they seemed to have understood the incidents from the past. They understood why she rejected him by shaking her head gently in the past. She did it because she was afraid of what was bound to happen one day. She did it because she was terrified that one day they would have no choice but to be enemies, in spite of being deeply in love with each other. Please welcome our last candidate, the Dragon Spear Goddess. Naya, it's your turn. The entire Sea God Lake and the shore were quiet when Tang Yiming's voice faded. The radiance of the moon and the stars in the sky made Sea God Lake beneath the starlit night sparkle. Her silver hair, purple eyes, and exquisite silhouette were reflecting the light under the moon and stars as she slowly arrived next to Dai Yuna. Her gaze appeared a little dazed, but there was a radiance rippling in her eyes. Her gaze, as she looked at him, was no longer akin to a sister looking at an older brother. Tang Wulin was taken aback when he sensed that she was looking at him differently. Brother. Naya called out to him softly. Naya, you. Tang Wulin was frowning ever so slightly. Naya smiled. Brother, do you know the moment you took me in when I was 3 years old that I already loved you? Even when you were not so strong, you did your best to defend me from those evil men. You're not only kind but brave. You're much tougher than your peers. Your martial soul awakened when you were 6 years old. It was the blue silver brass, a universally acknowledged useless martial soul. However, you had soul power when your martial soul was awakened. Your ambition was to become a soul master, but you dared not think about becoming a battle armor master at the time. You said you wished to control a mecha instead. Naya looked at Tang Wulin affectionately. At that moment, he was all her eyes could see. But one would need to spend a lot of money in order to become a soul master with a spirit soul. Our family was not well off. Father and mother worked very hard. Thus, you were only allowed to study forging when you were 16 years old. I remember very clearly that you couldn't even make an expression because you were so tired after class at the beginning. You collapsed on the bed, and it seemed like you couldn't even hear me calling out to you. Yet, you didn't give up. You still remained persistent in learning. You bought me candies with the remaining money after you had saved a portion of your salary each time. Those candies were so sweet. Do you still remember that I once asked if you would miss me when I'm gone? Tang Wulin listened to Naya's words in a daze. His mind seemed to have traveled back to 10 years ago when he was still at his home. My ambition is to go to the Star Sea. He was a youth with black hair, black eyes, and a fair complexion. He stepped into the East Sea City alone with a vain hope as he embarked on an unknown journey. He had a useless blue silver brass martial soul and his inherent, pitiful rank 3 soul power. He was ordinary in the vast city, but even that tiny grass seed which was blown everywhere could fulfill its original intention. While the rest of the people were still immersed in their parents' inculcation, he had lost his home. That dash of warm silver color was moving away from his gaze, and he felt cold in his palm. Will you miss me when I'm gone? Of course, I will. I'll miss you so much. The moist night breeze gently stroked his face. The warmth radiating from his left breast made him smile. It did not feel bitter but nostalgic, as he reminisced about his past. The silver-haired girl was never too far away in his heart. She was still living in a corner of his memories as she called out to him under the setting sun. I'm Tang Wulin, and my ambition is to go to the Star Sea. When that ordinary grass seed germinates into a lush green field, will I be able to hold your hand and visit the Star Sea again? Brother, I like you. I love you. I'm willing to spend all my time to accompany you in the future and be by your side always. Please allow me to love you. Is that all right? I'm serious. Naya's expression was so solemn that even the Atlas Douluo Yanming on the tower ship felt shocked. Initially, Tang Wulin's desolate and despairing heart could not help being moved. If one were to ask how he prioritized the females in his heart, his mother, Naya, and she would each occupy a permanent position. Even so, he never thought that she would talk about all this to him during the Sea God Fated Date Festival with everyone's attention fixated on them. Naya, you're my sister. No, I'm not. I'm only your Naya. We are not related by blood. I'm only your Naya. I refuse to be your sister anymore. I'm only willing to be your Naya. She spoke stubbornly. Tang Wulin's body was shivering ever so slightly. Time's up, Naya. I can't allow you to continue speaking anymore so as to be fair to everyone. Tang Yunmeng's voice sounded slightly odd. He once vowed not to allow anyone to make Naya cry, yet he never expected that person to be himself. Naya, why do you have to be so foolish? There was an indescribable feeling in the depth of his heart for some unknown reason. Just as Naya said, they were not biological siblings after all. Naya was the sister he took in, the sister he had watched over diligently. Naya suddenly raised her head and looked toward Tang Wulin with a burning gaze. There would never have been anyone else in your heart if I hadn't left you in the beginning. Junior Wulin, please make your choice. Lan Muzi urged with a deep voice. Tang Wulin inhaled a deep breath strenuously as the energy in his entire body seemed to be shifting. He questioned his conscience, and the answer was unusually clear to him. He did not want to hurt Naya, but more than that, he did not want to lie to her. Besides, everything was so complicated. He did not wish to give up this opportunity even if it seemed extremely vague. I'm sorry, Naya. I choose female number 17. Tang Wulin exerted almost all the strength of his entire body as he spoke those few simple words. The scene in the sky exploded this time akin to that fragile heart being broken brutally in the past. Tang Wulin and Gu Yuna's silhouette appeared in the sky once again. Tears were streaming down Gu Yuna's face at the moment. The tears did not belong to Gu Yue, but it belonged to Naya. It was Naya who had always loved Tang Wulin deeply and tried everything she could to influence Gu Yue so that she would not hurt him. Naya, said Tang Wulin with a shaky voice. Despite his powerful abilities, his heart wrenched in agony when he recalled that moment through his thought concretization. He was so reluctant to hurt Naya. Neither could he go against his heart at the time. However, the way he rejected her at that moment still breaks his heart now. Had he known that his rejection would make Naya disappear completely, perhaps he would rather suffer for the rest of his life than to reject her. On the other hand, the color on Naya's face faded the second Tang Wulin spoke those words. Subconsciously, she backed one step behind with half of her foot in the water. Her body swayed for a while before she managed to stabilize herself. Lan Muzi swallowed a gulp, and then he looked toward female number 17. According to the rules, you must remove your bamboo hat and veil now. Then, listen to his love confession for a minute. Female number 17 paused for a moment before she raised her hands slowly to remove the bamboo hat and veil from her head. It was a pale, charming face with black hair and black eyes. She did not appear extraordinary when compared to Dai Yuna and Naya by her side. She was completely concealed by the radiance emitting from the two females beside her. Her face was covered in tears from earlier, tears that she could not control. She watched him as her lips trembled gently. Tang Wulin smiled when he saw the tears on her face. He smiled because she was not treating him mercilessly. He suddenly felt like everything was worth it when he saw those tears. You should choose her. Gu Yue turned her head to the side and looked toward Naya's direction. Naya did not utter a word. Again, Gu Yue said something baffling. I don't want to win. On the other hand, Naya smiled. Her pale face was filled with a faint grin at that moment. She puffed up her chest as she suddenly looked toward Gu Yue with a slight arrogance. There are things that aren't up to you. Gu Yue shut her eyes as tears streamed down her face. However, do you know how great a price he would have to pay? Our life would be unbearably tough in the future. Naya spoke with determination. I don't. I can only hope that I'm capable of giving myself entirely to him. This portion of memories belongs to Gu Yuna. It was Gu Yuna's turn to project her thought concretization. When the scene of her saying, do you know how great a price he would have to pay, played, Tang Wulin could not refrain himself from shutting his eyes in pain. Yes, the price that he had to pay was finally here. It was here on this very day. The agony wreaked havoc through his mind and body. The agony was leading him down the abyss once again. On the other hand, it was precisely during that moment that he felt Gu Yuna's love for him in its truest sense. Lan Muzi could not understand either, but the fated date festival had to go on. Wulin, it's your turn. You have a minute. Tang Wulin shook his head and stared at Gu Yue. I don't need a minute. I only need to ask her a question. Gu Yue, I've only ever loved one girl in this world, and that girl is you. Do you love me? He once had thousands and millions of words he wished to tell her, yet when he was confronting her, he could only speak these words. These words were enough for him. He needed an answer that could make him stop caring for everything else or make him walk into another world. He raised his right hand and extended his turned palm. Glossy golden scales spread from the exposed wrist all the way to his palm. Shining, golden claws appeared with his 5 fingers flexed inward. He pointed the sharp claw straight at the top of his head. A gush of thick blood essence fluctuation burst out from his body abruptly. It was difficult to describe, but during that split second when the thick blood essence aura appeared, every single soul master with a dragon-type martial soul at the scene gave out a muffled grunt. They appeared ghastly pale. Even Long Yue was no exception. Brother, don't. Naya shrieked, yet she dared not move at all. She could clearly see the golden radiance pulsating on the golden dragon claw. Tang Wulin would only need to lower his palm ever so slightly before he would raise his head. I only need to know the answer, your heart's answer, the genuine answer. Don't lie to me. I can tell from your gaze and your bloodline. I can sense if you're telling the truth. Tang Wulin stared at Gu Yue with a burning gaze without the slightest concession. Gu Yue looked at him absent-mindedly. Tears were no longer streaming down her face. All of a sudden, she felt as if her entire body was about to have a breakdown. She nodded strenuously as tears poured down her face once more. She did not help kneeling onto the lotus leaf. She did not speak anymore but only nodded vigorously. Tang Wulin smiled proudly as he put down his right hand. He took a step forward and stood before her. He pulled her up from the lotus leaf into his arms. An enormous creature emerged underneath Tang Wulin's body accompanied by a valiant dragon's roar that pushed his and her body into the air. Tang Wulin did not know that after experiencing the joy which only lasted a moment, he would need to endure the agony that he was utterly incapable of withstanding at this exact moment. He had not expected that he would need to confront the person he loved. In the crisis which involved all mankind, his only option was to kill her so he could perhaps solve the crisis once and for all. Yet, the girl who nodded strenuously at him had loved him with all her might. How could he bring himself to do it? Intense emotions affected every single person, not only mankind but the soul beasts similarly. The jade swan was already sobbing profusely of all the numerous beasts. Even a powerful soul beast as magnificent as the bear lord was twitching as well. The beast god watched the scene in a daze. He knew about the relationship between Gu Yuna and Tang Wulin, but he knew much less than what he had just learned. Shrek Academy was protected by the Atlas Douluo in the past. How would he have the courage to enter? He had only now known that her highness had formed such a deep relationship with Tang Wulin since the sea god's fated date festival. It was precisely this relationship that made her unable to bear killing him all this while. Tang Wulin's real pain lasted only 5 days. Perhaps the pain that her highness endured in her heart for so many years knowing that she could never possibly be with him must be even more excruciating. All of a sudden, Gu Yue raised the silver dragon spear in her hand with tears streaming down her face. It's time for you to know something. The thought concretization scene appeared once again. However, only Tang Wulin could see it this time. The sea god lake in the early morning had a mysterious beauty to it. Mist clouded over the surface of the lake while blue waves rippled on the water. She stood by the lakeside for a very long time. Her shoulders were covered with the morning dew, yet she did not have any intention to brush it off. She appeared like an elf with her silver hair blowing in the morning breeze as she gazed distantly into the foggy dawn. Her large purple eyes reflected the lake water. The corners of her lips cracked into a faint smile. Another woman walked over silently and stood by her side. Her black hair blowing in the wind made her glow with health. There was a faint blush on her charming face. However, when she saw the other woman, her smile vanished. They stood side by side as they gazed into the crystal clear lake water before them. You've won. Naya spoke in a soft yet relaxed manner. It seems like you really want me to win. Gu Yue frowned. Naya chuckled. Yes, I actually want you to win badly as I figured that you'd win anyhow. I understand him too well. Can you believe it? I exist only as an episode in his life. I confessed my love for him, just so I had a suitable excuse to leave. He would be sad if you were to leave. Gu Yue spoke. Naya shook her head with self-mockery. I had lost. Am I allowed to stay? However, I knew that I'd certainly lose. Anyway, I had to lose. Otherwise, he would have died for real, right? Gu Yue was silent. Naya sighed softly. Back when we were betting, I made a firm resolution to place the bet, because I knew that you only pretended to kill him yet you wished to appear flawless in your soul. I didn't have the choice but to comply with you. Otherwise, you'd have a flaw in your soul at the time which meant you'd kill him without the slightest hesitation. Do you regret your choice now? Naya asked. Gu Yue was slightly stunned. Regret? I don't know. She genuinely did not know if she regretted it or not. Naya spoke. If you didn't wish for all of this to happen, then you shouldn't have established the method to integrate into the human world back in the beginning. Facts prove that your practice was right. Only by understanding mankind can you truly discover the method to destroy them. However, we've discovered that not all mankind is completely useless. At least, mankind's empathy is something that we don't have. That's why there's you and me when we were young. We had no choice but to seal ourselves in order to become more like humans, so we could truly integrate ourselves into human society. That was how part of our spirit which belonged to mankind was born. When you realized that mankind's sentiment in you was getting out of control, you requested me to erase it by force. By then, it was already impossible. It would have caused you great harm. On the other hand, all this was because my brother brought me love and warmth, so I understood mankind's sentiment. You stripped me away from your body because you had no other choice and made me into an autonomous individual. However, I always be a part of you even when we're two separate individuals. That was why you placed a bet with me to find out whether my brother would fall in love with you and abandon me. If you were to win, then it would prove that mankind's sentiment was fake, so I'd merge into your body once again. On the other hand, if you were to lose, then you'd make me into a complete individual as you promised. Isn't that correct? What a waste of your intelligence, but mankind's sentiment. It didn't take long for me to realize that it was utterly impossible. I take up 30% of your overall power. You would never be you anymore if I became an integral whole in the end. Thus, you'll never abandon me. The only choice is either we merge back together or you the flaw. Hence, if you lose, then you'll certainly kill my brother and force me to merge with you. Am I right? Douluo stared at Naya. Her charming face turned pale as she listened to Naya's rhetoric. Douluo, do you know that I was willing to bet with you because you totally don't understand mankind's emotions? You assumed that my brother and I had a romantic relationship. Actually, you're wrong. We have a family relationship. Perhaps I didn't treat him as such, but he considers me as his sister. On the other hand, he's not treating you with affection but true romantic love. Love and affection are two completely different things. Thus, he has never abandoned me nor betrayed me despite choosing you. In that sense, I've lost. Yet, you won't be getting the result you wished for. Thus, it's truly difficult to tell who actually won. Douluo looked at her deeply. Do you really think that I don't realize you've been planning all these? Naya smiled. Of course, you knew. How can you possibly not figure this out when you're so intelligent? Just as when you attempted to be estranged from my brother, you already sensed that your feelings were affected. Unfortunately, love has a subtle influence on your character. It was already too late when you realized that something was wrong because he already had a place in your heart. Thus, you've been attempting to break free with great effort for a long time. Yet, the more time passes, the more he begins to grow and take root in your heart. Do you realize that we are inherently too naive whether we are soul beasts or divine beasts? Moreover, no matter how powerful your energy or how vast your spiritual power, there's no way you can resist the emotion once we are engaged with matters of the heart. It has no form or shape, yet it truly exists. Douluo spoke bitterly. So, do you think that he won't matter anymore by saying this? Do you really think so? Naya sighed softly. At least, he'll live longer. When he becomes powerful enough with time or when you're incapable of fighting him anymore. I believe that no one will be capable of killing him. Douluo, face your emotions or enmity will only blind you. Douluo suddenly spoke in rage. You're just like a human now. Naya smiled. I was a human initially. I've always thought so. That's why I refused to destroy mankind, and I even hope to see us living together in peace. I love my brother and our parents too. I enjoy mankind's world and its idiosyncrasies. You've won, yet you've lost too. However, I truly wish that you'll have better results in the future. No, that all of you will have better results. Douluo's breath quickened. You really think that I'm incapable of killing him mercilessly? Naya shook her head. Of course, you can't. You can't since the beginning. Even in my absence, you can't either. Otherwise, why do you wait until now? Since when have you been so hesitant? Perhaps, you stood a chance when you were hesitant the first time, but you'll probably never kill him again after you've been hesitant thrice. I understand you well enough, so you must be clear about this in your heart too. After we've merged, you'll be me and I'll be you. You'll be affected even more and have great difficulty in making up your mind. You must love him. My brother is truly outstanding. Even though we don't know where his golden dragon king bloodline came from, I'll admit that he's the only one worthy of being our companion in the human world. Douluo's face was filled with disappointment. My biggest mistake was my decision in placing the bet with you back then. I shouldn't have made you into a separate whole at all. At least, I'd still be able to exert my subtle influence if we had remained as one. You've lost, and I've lost too. You're right that I couldn't bear to kill. That was why I could only leave him and allow time for our love to fade. Perhaps by doing so, I can kill him one day. Maybe, he can grow fast enough so he can kill me one day. You understand that the conflict between us can't be reconciled. This is the conflict between mankind and the soul beasts. It's also the conflict between godhood and the divine beasts. It's a conflict that we're incapable of resolving. Naya was quiet. She had become desolate. When I'm gone, you'll be gone too. He's going to be sad. Douluo's body shuddered. It's still going to be better than me staying by his side and our people losing control and taking the initiative to kill him. I'm still far from being able to walk out of the seal completely. The core is already awakened, but you know there are many powerful creatures amongst our people. There are even some powerhouses capable of becoming divine beasts that I'm incapable of suppressing. Hence, I'm destined to leave. Naya bit her lips. Perhaps you're right. Douluo, you've truly changed. You know how to take others into consideration, especially him. I understand now that you must leave in order to give him more space to grow. You wish he'll become powerful enough one day that there's no way you can kill him. However, you know that's impossible. The divine realm is non-existent. He'll never achieve your level till eternity. Douluo smiled. You know it, but you don't understand it. You've no idea what he means in my heart. Neither do you have any idea what percentage of me belongs to mankind now. You're right that I do have regrets. I regretted my decision to issue the order to integrate into the human world at the beginning. However, I'll need to fulfill my mission, yet there are those I'm unwilling to harm. Thus, let me face the contradiction alone. I don't know what to do either, but I'll need to move forward anyhow. Come back, Naya. I'm no longer Douluo from today onward. My name will finally be complete, only that you won't know it will be Yuna. Speckles of radiance shimmered as Douluo's body suddenly turned translucent. It was a white silvery translucence as the hexagram underneath her feet conjured a layer of formless shield which enshrouded both of them. If one were nearby, one would realize that there was not an ounce of energy fluctuation seeping out from that white, silvery world. Naya's body turned translucent as well. She began walking toward Douluo one step at a time with tears streaming down her face. It's hard for me to leave all this behind. Everyone around me, my teachers and my brother. Douluo sighed. However, you should also know that no matter how hard it is, you don't have an energy source, so you're destined to return. Otherwise, you'll only vanish into thin air. You said it before that I am you and you are me when you've merged with me. I'll let go of everything. Since the floor has already turned into a rift, we shall then accept this rift together. Perhaps, everything will be different now. The silvery white silhouettes overlapped. Naya and Douluo spread out their arms as the two silhouettes began to slowly fuse together. Douluo's black hair vanished while her black eyes turned purple. Naya's childlike look disappeared as she slowly grew in size. Once the two of them looked completely identical and had transformed into the dragon spear goddess, who was 3 years older, the silver light suddenly vanished with a flash into the silent sea god lake. Naya. Tang Wulin's vision blurred. Had you not forced me into making a choice, perhaps you wouldn't be in so much pain now. Had you allowed me to leave in the past, perhaps you'll be able to face this calmly now. Naya wouldn't have left you either. I said that before at the time. You should have chosen her instead. The light shadow vanished. The silver dragon princess held the silver dragon spear on one side, while Tang Wulin who held the golden dragon spear appeared lost. So, it turned out that this happened in the past. In order to help Tang Wulin achieve his dream, Naya sacrificed herself. Whoever won the bet felt like a loser to Tang Wulin. Perhaps, he was the only winner in this situation. Yet, he wondered what he would do if he were given another chance to choose. He had no idea. Yes, even he had no idea at all. Yet, the memories reminded him of something deep in his mind. Gradually, he calmed down. I have no regrets, said Tang Wulin softly. Chapter 1980 The Real Battle of the Gods. Yuna's body shook. She said bitterly, so you really have no regrets? Tang Wulin nodded. I don't regret it, no matter how much I'm involved at this exact moment. I know that I'm happy that I got to spend those days with you in the past at the very least. I may not have held out until now without those days. And if I didn't have that hope, how could I possibly rebuild Shrek and fight against the Abyssal Legion? You've always been that hope in my heart. It's precisely this reason that I'm able to persist until now. The hope may be lost now, but it existed before in some measure. Yuna was stunned for a moment. Tang Wulin smiled. Even though his smile was bittersweet, he remained smiling all along. The result is important, yet how is the process unimportant? You and I, we represent the soul beasts and mankind. Your judgment is correct. We're bound to stand on opposing sides. We've our clans behind us, so we can't cower nor run. This is the responsibility that we must bear. Come, let's put an end to this today. Let's end this war once and for all. I can only hope that you'll let the soul beasts and mankind live peacefully if you win. If I win, I'll certainly do my best to ensure this as well. Is that okay? Think of this as our promise to each other. Tang Wuling appeared to have returned to his normal self completely by now. Gu Yuna was glassy-eyed on the other hand. She was in a daze for a short while before she nodded slowly. In the meantime, both mankind and the soul beasts were immersed in their emotions which had been passed to them from earlier at the ground level. Tang Wuling slowly raised his golden dragon spear and right hand simultaneously to make a grasping gesture. The sea god's trident appeared in his grasp once again. His combined act of unleashing a divine weapon and a super divine weapon was undoubtedly a display of his willingness to spare no effort. The silver dragon spear in Gu Yuna's hand was raised similarly. A nine-colored halo akin to a light will descended from the sky and hovered above the top of her head. It illuminated and enshrouded her body. Her aura began to bloom at full speed. The battle between them was about to unfold in real life from this moment on. It was the final battle. Tang Wuling's eyes lit up first. He took a step forward with his left foot. The combat heaven and earth consciousness burst forth as he unleashed the forbid heaven earth. Dragon Emperor fight. The consciousness that burst forth brazenly elevated his essence, energy, and spirit to its peak instantly. Apparently, the two battles from before did not affect his current fighting capacity even a little. A terrifying aura spread out from his body soon after. A piercing radiance erupted in the sky. The air was filled with the resonant roars of a dragon as if the golden dragon king had awakened. Triggered by the dragon's roars, the dragon god core above Gu Yuna's head began to shake mildly. It emitted an incomparably powerful aura as if it was calling out to its dual parts to combine with each other. A silver light coiled around the silver dragon dancing killing battle armor cladded to Gu Yuna's body. She swung the silver dragon spear which was already rendered in 9 colors. All at once, a 9-colored light orb condensed slowly in the air. The light orb was not large, only the size of a man's fist. Its energy within was constantly superimposing, compressing, and complementing itself. Roar, roar. Two dragons' roars were heard simultaneously. The golden and the silver silhouettes charged at each other. The real battle of the gods had begun at this very moment. Boom. It was the explosive power of a god, turning the sky into a splendor of light. Countless rifts emerged at a high altitude in the sky. The two silhouettes parted abruptly and shot out toward opposing sides. Tang Wuling unleashed the mysterious heaven loop from the golden dragon spear in his left hand to neutralize the energy storm explosion, while with the sea god's trident in his right hand, he pierced forward to unleash the thousand accusing fingers. The light shadow casted by the sea god's trident fused into a gigantic halberd. It shot out ferociously and headed straight for Gu Yuna. A radiance circulated in Gu Yuna's eyes. Everything within the surrounding area, whereby she was at its center, suddenly became distorted. The dragon god core above her head shone a light ray which landed precisely on the halberd's shadow. Buzz. A divine radiance shook the place. Tang Wuling and Gu Yuna swayed simultaneously. The sea god's trident transformed once again to unleash the millennium cloud. Tang Wuling appeared to have no reservations in the battle anymore. Gu Yuna squinted her eyes. She raised the silver dragon spear vertically. The dragon god core immediately spewed forth a stream of 9-colored radiance. A gigantic 9-colored dragon's head emerged behind Gu Yuna and spat out a huge breath which enshrouded her body instantly. At this very moment, Gu Yuna's aura was elevated exponentially. Her raised silver dragon spear swung down brazenly to transform into an enormous 9-colored light blade which was targeted at Tang Wuling. The white clouds cracked and dispersed into the air. In the next moment, the 9-colored radiance had arrived before Tang Wuling. The sea god's trident unleashed the mysterious heaven loop. The golden halos were projected in overlapping layers. These halos neutralized the 9-colored light blade. Soon after, the halo expanded outward to form into Tang Wuling's most powerful control-type divine skill known as the indefinite storm. The indefinite storm condensed from the mysterious heaven loop was so far successful when it was unleashed in the previous battles such that no powerhouse was capable of resisting it. The beasts watching the battle from the ground became nervous at once. Was Gu Yuna capable of resisting this indefinite storm then? The abyssal sage king was defeated by the indefinite storm, unleashed by Tang San personally, which resulted in his eventual death. Once the target was entrapped within the halo, the target would need to endure a full force attack. Meanwhile, the dragon god core above Gu Yuna's head suddenly dropped down. Her pupils were suddenly tainted with rich, 9 colors. At the same time, an ineffable icy cold aura burst forth from her body. An invisible overbearingness erupted from her body instantly. Tang Wuling felt his golden dragon king's bloodline aura dimmed abruptly. There was a feeling of forced suppression which made him uneasy. Ever since he possessed the golden dragon king bloodline, he had always suppressed the others. He had never encountered a situation where he was suppressed by the others. This was the first time he felt it. It was the dragon god's power. It was the suppression from the dragon god's bloodline. Gu Yuna, who possessed the dragon god core, inherently had the upper hand. Meanwhile, Gu Yuna swung the silver dragon spear forward in her hand and made an upward lifting motion. The golden halos were deflected into the surroundings silently. Finally, not even one managed to enshroud her body. On the other hand, the silver dragon spear in her hand turned more translucent every time she made the upward lifting motion. It felt as if the spear was absorbing and devouring the power contained in the dragon god core. She had succeeded. Gu Yuna had actually broken Tang Wuling's indefinite storm. Ever since Tang Wuling utilized the indefinite storm, Gu Yuna became the first person to break the attack without being immobilized for the slightest bit. At this very moment, Tang Wuling was seemingly stunned. On the other hand, Gu Yuna was already one with the spear. In the next moment, the spear was shooting straight at him. All the humans and beasts were anxious. The decisive battle lasted way shorter than they imagined. The two candidates knew each other too well. The battle was just that simple and direct at their level where even the plane was incapable of suppressing them. All of a sudden, the sky darkened. A gush of invisible pressure appeared abruptly between the sky and the ground. At the same time, the golden dragon spear and the sea god's trident in Tang Wuling's hands glowed brightly. However, his physical self remained the same. His entire body turned translucent and glowed brightly with his heart acting as the core. In a split second, he illuminated the vault of heaven. He unleashed the forbidden one world, Dragon Emperor Shine. It was the final move of the Dragon Emperor Forbidden Law and also Tang Wuling's most powerful ability. When he achieved the true god rank, it elevated his Dragon Emperor Forbidden Law to a whole new level. The golden dragon spear unleashed the mysterious heaven loop while the sea god's trident swung to unleash the forbid totality, Dragon Emperor Shine. The golden dragon wings on his back flapped at full force to propel his body into shooting toward Gu Yuna akin to an arrowhead. Their eyes met at this very moment. Tang Wuling stared at her with a burning gaze as if he was recalling every single detail of hers in his mind. Gu Yuna was completely enshrouded in a 9-colored radiance, leaving only her pair of eyes which shone as brightly as before. It only lasted for a split second. Nonetheless, it felt as if they were already eternalized. Chapter 1981 Kill me. If I were to say I don't love you, will you really kill yourself? Gu Yue inquired, a little out of breath. Why would I kill myself? I was just going to scratch my head with the golden dragon claw. Tang Wuling chuckled. Gu Yue raised her head and stared at him, while he took the opportunity to give her lips a soft peck. Liar. Gu Yue spoke in rage. Tang Wuling smiled and said, if I could lie and convince you, then I'm willing to be a liar for the rest of my life. Gu Yue, I love you. Gu Yue paused for a while. When the passion in her heart had subsided, she was calm for a moment before her rational mind took over. She buried her head against his shoulder. Then, a tinge of bitterness showed on her charming face. You shouldn't have done that. You know, you're playing with fire and you'll get burned. I can't be together with you. We're different, so we won't be together eventually. Tang Wuling spoke calmly. If we are destined to be apart, why worry about it now? Since we're together now, let's enjoy the moment. In any case, should this be our destiny, I'll be by your side to face the future with you no matter how difficult it would be. You don't understand. Gu Yue shut her eyes in agony. I do. Tang Wuling answered with determination. He did not inquire about Gu Yue's concern, because he knew that she would tell him sooner or later when she wanted to. On the other hand, if she did not bother to tell him, then he was willing to face it with her no matter what it was. Gu Yue grabbed his shoulder. She could not bear to leave his arms. Wuling. She looked at him in all seriousness. Tang Wuling smiled and said, "Tell me what's on your mind. I believe that you already know my intention, but you should also know that I've always been a very persistent person." A sense of bitterness was revealed at the corners of Gu Yue's lips. "What if one day you realize that I'm the enemy that you have no choice but to confront? What would you do?" Tang Wuling answered, "If the day comes and you're the enemy whom I've no choice but to confront, then you should kill me so I can live in your heart. Then, we'll never part at all." He spoke very calmly. Those were not meant to be sweet-sounding words. Nevertheless, tears began streaming uncontrollably down Gu Yue's face. Close. They were getting closer and closer. The 9-colored silver dragon spear was about to collide into the mysterious heaven loop. It was also at this exact moment when the flawless circular arc suddenly halted. A breach instantly appeared on the halo which was supposed to look like a full moon. Life is like the moon, sometimes full, sometimes half full. The mysterious heaven loop was broken. The dragon emperor shine elevated the angle gently. At that very moment, all the concision and assertiveness in his gaze had disappeared, leaving only gentleness. He watched her attentively with a gentle gaze. He had always remembered the things he said. He remembered that he would rather let her kill him if they had no choice but to become mutual enemies. He trusted her and he believed that she would not destroy mankind after his death. Otherwise, she would never agree to the 2 battles that allowed him to call off the terms earlier. She was aware that he had the ability to defeat his opponents in the first 2 rounds. It proved that she did not really want to destroy mankind. She was a human too after all. She was not only Gu Yue, but Naia as well. There was nothing that could be done to solve the discordant relationship and conflict between the 2 clans. The only way was for one clan to occupy a stronger position. Could he really bring himself to kill her? He could not. At this very moment, he had abandoned his ideals to protect mankind. He had placed all his bets on her. Whatever DTN thought, he would have thought of it too, of course. Over the years, he was not the one who suffered the most, but it was her. How much pain and bitterness had she endured in her heart in order to be where she was now? If Tang Wuling were to say that he was happy being with her at some point in the past, chances were she had never been able to truly enjoy happiness. Even when she was with him, she had always been wary of their time together. Yes, she was unhappy. The unhappiness was caused by the love between them. How could he possibly be ruthless and hurt her? Tang Wuling had abandoned everything before he came to this decisive battle today. For this world, for the Douluo continent, he had already suffered way too much. Perhaps, the only people that he could not bear to part were his parents and sister whom he had yet to meet. In any case, he did not have a choice. He could not wait for their return anymore. Due to the present situation, he made the choice to free himself in a sense. He could not endure it any longer. In fact, he felt more dead than alive at most times. He wanted to fulfill his promise, so he transformed his suppressed love and affection to this momentary calmness. He looked at her, then stared glaringly at her. He loved her so much. The golden dragon moon song that was named after her was retracted silently at this very moment. Only his body was displayed before her silver dragon spear. Closer. They were getting even closer now. It was utterly impossible for him to back out now due to the close distance. Besides, he refused to back out. Gu Yuna changed the way she looked at him, yet it was precisely then that her gaze suddenly had a murderous intent. In that instant, when Tang Wuling thought he was going to be stabbed, the murderous intent skimmed past him abruptly and headed to the ground instead. What's she doing? Gu Yuna's silver dragon spear did not stab Tang Wuling, but the murderous intent erupted instantly. It seemed like she was trying to freeze heaven and earth. The silver dragon spear carrying her body dropped from the sky instantly. She was one with the spear which was enshrouded with a murderous intent. The 4 great limit Douluos, the sea god Douluo Chenzinji, the light dark Douluo Lun Yeyu, the amorous Douluo Zhangxian, and the heartless Douluo Cao Daja were watching with outstretched necks on the ground below. They felt trapped in an icy cold world. They were completely immobilized in the extreme cold, and they felt as if the blood in their bodies was about to freeze. The silver dragon spear was pointed at its first target, the amorous Douluo Zhangxian. The sharp spear arrived in an instant as if it had been teleported. Due to the disparity of their cultivation bases, the amorous Douluo did not stand a chance to unleash his amorous sword before he was immobilized by Gu Yuna's divine consciousness. At this exact moment, a silhouette stood in front of the amorous Douluo. It was precisely the heartless Douluo Cao Daja. No. Tang Wuling roared aloud in rage as he reacted to the situation. He used his utmost speed to reach the ground from the sky. Unfortunately, he was a step too late. He could not catch up with Gu Yuna's expeditious silhouette. He felt chills in his heart suddenly. She wanted to kill the amorous Douluo and the heartless Douluo for fear that they would utilize their martial soul fusion skill. The emotions moved to heaven. Poof. How could a human's body stop the sharp silver dragon spear? The sharp spear pierced through the heartless Douluo's chest instantly. A moment later, it pierced through the amorous Douluo's body and pinned both of them to the ground. He clearly saw the 2 great limit Douluo's life forces being devoured by the silver dragon spear. Their bodies withered soon after. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It surpassed everyone's imagination and judgment. No one expected this situation to actually take place, and that Gu Yuna would kill the amorous Douluo and the heartless Douluo in such a cold, ruthless manner. Even the beasts which were constantly in fear of the 2 limit Douluos were dumbstruck upon witnessing the scene. An icy cold glint glimmered in Gu Yuna's eyes. The silver dragon spear pulsated, and then retracted instantly. Subsequently, the spear was swept horizontally to point at the light dark Douluo. The sound of a dragon's roar was heard coming from Lun Yeyu when she was targeted by Gu Yuna's murderous intent. She unleashed her martial soul. At the same time, the sea god Douluo Chenzinji tugged at her body, shoved her behind him. Chapter 1982 Just to Love You. Gu Yuna turned around abruptly and stabbed the silver dragon spear in her hand at Tang Wuling who had by then caught up to her. Tang Wuling suddenly had a change of mind. Initially, he thought he would die for sure. He was close to having an emotional breakdown. In that instant, a barrage of thoughts ran through his mind. What was the purpose of her killing the heartless Douluo and the amorous Douluo? It meant she would not let mankind off the hook. On the contrary, she wanted to kill all of mankind's powerhouses. It meant the soul beasts were still trying to dominate the entire world and to annihilate mankind in the process. Tang Wuling's mind was in a complete mess. He watched helplessly as Gu Yuna tried to kill Lun Yeyu. How could he let her have it her way? Hence, he swung the golden dragon spear with all his might to stop Gu Yuna. Gu Yuna's icy cold gaze was utterly emotionless. At this very moment, her emotions were completely immersed in the dragon clan's hatred and rage for mankind. It seemed like her only goal was to destroy everything before her. The silver dragon spear's tip braced the golden dragon king's spear tip in a precise manner. The golden dragon moon song and the silver dragon dancing keeling collided once again. The 2 dragon spears pierced into one another. They had lost count of the number of times they collided. Yet, at this very moment, a situation which no one expected occurred. The silver dragon spear was still glimmering with its 9-colored radiance. Its light was pulsating and it appeared as powerful as ever. Suddenly, it turned illusory into a bubble. The golden light passed through the layers of bubbles. Tang Wuling watched incredulously as the spear pierced into Gu Yuna's chest with a thud. It had pierced through her heart. The icy cold expression on her face disappeared completely at this moment. She seemed to feel no pain. There was only a faint smile on her face. Everything appeared to be in an eternal state at this precise moment. It was not just Tang Wuling. Everyone else watching were glassy-eyed. All the beasts in the distance were frantic. The sea god Douluo and the light dark Douluo standing by Gu Yuna's side were astonished. Meanwhile, the halo around the withered bodies of the heartless Douluo and the amorous Douluo became distorted and turned into a large bubble before disappearing to reveal 2 persons who were uninjured but stunned. Molan gasped, her mouth wide open. Thousands of soldiers were shocked. The public watching the screen widened their eyes in surprise. Yet, everything was frozen the moment Gu Yuna's heart was pierced by the golden dragon spear. Time froze. Everyone maintained their posture and did not move the slightest, but just as when the Lord of the Plain, Tang Hao sealed the entire space when he appeared in the past, even Tang Wuling's heart seemed to be frozen at the moment. His mind drew a blank. How could he not know that he had fallen for Gu Yuna's scheme? His body was still hovering in the air. There were only the both of them who could still move at present. His body slowly landed on the ground. He was shivering from the cold. In the next moment, he tried to pull out his golden dragon spear. Suddenly, Gu Yuna raised her hand to grab the shaft of the golden dragon spear. She kept a faint smile on her face and nodded toward him gently. A 9-colored radiance coiled around her long, slim fingers which kind of looked like spring onions. Tang Wuling tried to pull out the spear, but he just could not do it regardless of how hard he tried. He felt as if the spear was casted to her body. This is the ending that I've planned since earlier. It's also the best ending possible. Her red lips parted to utter the words softly. Every single person and every soul beast on the entire battlefield heard her voice and understood her. Nonetheless, they were still incapable of moving. It felt as if the entire sky and ground were locked down by her. Tears streamed down Tang Wuling's face in a split second. He could not find the words to speak. At this exact moment, his heart churned in pain. His entire person shivered violently. Gu Yuna heaved a soft sigh. Will you please listen to me? As she spoke, a stream of 9-colored radiance suddenly shot out from the top of her head to enshroud Tang Wulin's body. Tang Wulin was surprised to find himself immobilized despite his cultivation base. Apparently, the dragon god core flew out and immobilized him. Tang Wulin looked at her in a daze. He only realized at this moment that if she had wanted to harm him, she could have relied on the dragon god core to send him to his doom earlier. Why? Would she wait until now to do it? In a way, everything she had done was to lure him into stabbing her with the spear. Dou Yuna appeared so calm as if it was not her heart that he stabbed. They stared at each other closely despite being separated by the distance of the golden dragon spear. She was smiling all the time. Not an ounce of pain could be seen in her gaze. Only the utmost affection. Wulin, do you know that this is the moment that I can truly love you without any reservations? You asked me on multiple occasions if I love you. I've answered you before. Yet, now's the only time that I can truly announce before everyone as a witness and say I love you aloud. Her gaze was filled with love. She raised her left hand slowly and showed the ring which was wrapped around her fine, delicate finger and shimmering with a misty blue radiance. That day when you proposed to me, I was really, really touched. I became your wife the moment you put the ring on me. Dou will only be the wife of one man. He's Tang Wulin. Naya won. When she won, I knew I had sunk so far that I was completely involved. I attempted to extricate myself in the past. Besides, I tried to kill you on more than one occasion, yet I just couldn't do it. On the contrary, it made me sink deeper until I couldn't help it anymore. Even I had no idea when I fell in love with you. Perhaps it was the moment where you spent 1,000 days burying the dragon bones for my dragon clan, or it could be the time I called you father, or it was the moment you forced me to acknowledge my love for you with your irresistible confession during the sea god's fated date festival. At this point, her gaze began to turn blurry. Perhaps everything that happened isn't right. This is because our fate has been destined from the first time we met. Whether it's the first time you met Naya or the first time you encountered Douluo, it's destiny. You and I are destined to this fate. Perhaps this is a doomed love. Even so, I accept it too. I've no choice but to acknowledge the fact that your father is the most far-sighted man I've ever encountered in my life. He truly lives up to his name of being the leader of God Kings. He planned a strategy which had been decided 10,000 years ago. He managed to rejuvenate the vitality of the Douluo continent so that this world can enjoy peace for the next 10,000 years at the very least. He's a man of great wisdom and courage. We are barely significant when compared to him. I'm not as far-sighted as him. Thus, I haven't figured a way to solve the issue between us and to resolve the enmity between our clans which has spanned over tens of thousands of years. I'm the Silver Dragon King after all. I'm a part of the Dragon God's body and I'm the king of all beasts. I'm the first ancestor of the soul beasts. You can say that they're evolved from my aura into the clans they are currently. On the other hand, mankind has always been slaughtering them. This enmity cannot be resolved by virtue of our relationship. Even when we're standing at the pinnacle of our own clans, we still can't do it. For that, I've been ruminating for a very long time. I'm constantly searching for a way to solve this. I search for that ray of hope, hoping that it will appear before us and give us a way to be together for good. I've thought about ignoring everything else and being with you in the past. I even thought about abandoning everything of mine and my clan. As long as you love me, I'll disguise myself and be with you. I won't care about anything else but just to love you. Chapter 1983 Eternally sealed in ice. Nevertheless, am I really capable of doing that? I can't. The soul beasts are already on the verge of extinction. If they lose me, they will truly cease to exist. The Azurox Python and the Titan Giant Ape are your father's close friends, and they have even made an exception to stand by me despite being soul beasts that achieved godhood. It is precisely because they share my concern. If we don't save the soul beasts, they will go extinct for eternity. I can't just stand and do nothing as I watch my clansmen get annihilated. I attempted to run away too in the past. I had amnesia that time because I gave my brain a concussion intentionally so that I would lose my memories. At the time, I had the idea that you will certainly remain by my side, protecting me at all times. On the other hand, I wouldn't be able to do anything for my clan without my memories. Perhaps that would allow me to be with you all the time. Even so, you got the Velvet Scar-Rich Chrysanthemum to cure my brain injury that I refused to heal on my own purposely. Dou Yuna smiled bitterly. Even as such, I was still trying very hard to pretend that I still had amnesia. In fact, I was even hoping that I could fool myself with this. Nevertheless, how could I just sit by and watch when you faced a deadly threat when you were confronted by the Abyssal Sage King? I could only save you by making a move and joining you to unleash the Dragon God transformation. After that, I considered countless ways too. I was constantly struggling and hovering in agony, but I still couldn't figure out how. I still couldn't do anything. At last, I lost hope. At this point, she closed her eyes in pain. Desperate, I stayed silent for a very long time. I tried to forget about you. In fact, I even considered marrying Kai and Yu's Hainting during the Joust for a Spouse festival. I wanted to marry a man that I didn't love so that I could truly forget you or hurt you and make you stay away from me. Yet, you came. On the other hand, how could I make myself forget about you? Other than you, I wouldn't even let anyone lay a finger on me. So how could I possibly marry another man? I would only put on the ring given by you. I finally made up my mind after the Joust for a Spouse festival. I knew that I could never defeat fate. If that was the case, I could only follow the path of destiny. From that time onward, I came up with this plan. At this point, divine radiance was glimmering in her eyes once again. I don't have your father's foresight to come up with a 10,000-year plan to turn the tide. However, I came up with a plan that won't hurt you to the best of my abilities. It won't even increase the enmity of mankind while allowing my clansmen to stand a chance of survival. The past is the past. No matter how hard we try to seek revenge on mankind, even if we were to kill all humans now, we can't resurrect our clansmen that died. On the other hand, I had transformed into a human being so I could integrate into your society. I wanted to understand human beings so that I could overthrow you. If not for me, how could Spirit Pagoda develop the 10,000-year spirit soul so easily? The 10,000-year spirit souls were already infused with my spirit seed. It was because of this that I spent a very long time recovering my abilities. Afterward, I relied on the Dragon God Core to discover the existence of the small world later known as the 10,000 Beast platform. The Titan Giant Ape and the Azurox Python used a different method to save the soul beasts. They collected soul beast seeds so soul beasts could breed and multiply in that small world. Yet, the 10,000 Beast platform was too small anyhow and they were also incapable of maintaining the location with their power. For that, I discussed with them and agreed to use the Dragon God Core to act as the core of the 10,000 Beast platform. However, I needed their support to seek revenge on mankind. That was how the 10,000 Beast platform came to be. By relying on 10,000-year spirit souls and 10,000-year beast platform, we seized control of the vast majority of high-ranking soul masters. If you were to judge it from your human perspective, our scheme was already in full swing by then. We did it so we could launch our counterattack today. We just didn't expect that the Holy Spirit cult would actually team up with the Abyssal Plane. The Abyssal Sage King spared no effort in fusing with the Douluo continent plane just so he could devour it. However, I didn't feel a burden in my heart at the time because we got to fight side by side again. If we were to end up losing in the end, I could join you to die together in a perfectly justifiable manner. The Douluo continent being devoured by the Abyssal Plane would be an apocalyptic event for mankind as well as our soul beasts. It was also the first time we were bound by a common hatred for the enemy and fought together. What you didn't realize was that all our soul beasts that could take a human form had joined the battle and played important roles on the battlefield. Today, before the eyes of all mankind's powerhouses and my subordinates, I can say that I've never killed a human being that doesn't deserve to be killed since my resurrection. Thus, Wulin, your wife is pure and untainted by the slightest contamination. At this point, she smiled sweetly, but her eyes were already glistening with moisture. The sea god's appearance changed the ending that I planned originally. I thought that there wouldn't be another opportunity for me to use my plan anymore. The sea god left, the lord of the plane went into a deep sleep, and the eternal tree evolved. All this created an opportunity for me to use my original plan. I was utterly incapable of rejecting my subordinates' urging. On the other hand, it was also time for me to implement my original plan too. When you came to propose to me, did you know that my heart hurt so bad? It was obvious that I wanted to accept your ring so badly, and I even wanted to shout I do loudly to you even before you proposed to me. Yet, I couldn't. I could only weep in my heart after watching everything that you did for me. Even as such, I still couldn't keep myself from accepting your ring. That was because only by doing so could I make myself believe that I'm your wife. I did not initiate the war to destroy mankind. That would not benefit us. When humans decimated us, it resulted in disruption to the ecological balance. What difference would it make if we destroyed you? Moreover, I don't think that we are capable of destroying you. It is still possible for the sleeping lord of the plane to wake up. Even if I can defeat him, the entire plane will certainly be destroyed in the process. Thus, we can't adopt the life and death struggle. However, I will still need to initiate this catastrophe so your mankind can experience it. That is because I want to let mankind know that they will need to bear the consequences of the mistake they committed. I want to let mankind know that our soul beasts are capable of resisting too. At this point, her voice started rising. Her dignity was fully revealed in her pair of pretty eyes. Even if I have to die, the spirit seeds that I left behind will still exist. I will keep the Dragon God Core in the 10,000 beast platform to act as its core, and it will also be able to control these spirit seeds. On the other hand, the seeds that I planted through the Dragon God Core will be passed down to the descendants of mankind's soul masters continuously as well. Unless all the soul masters under my control are killed, these seeds shall remain always. If mankind attempts to destroy our soul beasts and hurt us, then we can seize control of mankind once again through the Dragon God Core and initiate the war that can annihilate humanity once again. This control effect will need 10,000 years at the very least to disappear. Upon saying that, her gaze shifted back to Tang Wulin's face. Her eyes turned gentle once again. This is my plan. Everything that I did was to ensure that our soul beasts and your humans can live together harmoniously. However, my decision to do this has also signified that I didn't fulfill everything that the King of Soul Beasts wanted to do. I am still standing on the opposing side of you anyhow. On the other hand, as the hero and king of mankind, how could you possibly marry a person like me? Even if you were to compromise in the end, we will still need to move further. I'm capable of controlling the entire situation, so I will only be the one most feared by all of you. Perhaps you're willing to abandon everything else to be with me, but so many of your thoughts will hold you back. You will always be unhappy. In reality, you can't possibly be with me anymore after learning about my identity. We will only be enemies. I don't want to see our soul beasts possess super powerful abilities either. The imbalance signifies wild ambition. Thus, I left a restriction on the Dragon God Core. The spiritual control will never surface again unless the soul beast lineage is in a critical situation. This is my plan. Only my death will relieve the wild ambitions of the soul beasts. Only the initiation of a war like this can awake your mankind. Willeen, I can only hope that you will keep mankind within its bounds after my death and give our soul beasts a living space. Fulfill our agreement and promise to leave the Great Star Dou Forest to us at the very least. Doming and Omega here. I believe that they will restrain the soul beasts too so that they won't hurt mankind. On the other hand, mankind has already developed 10,000-year spirit souls, so there is no need to hunt for soul beasts anymore. Let our two great clans live in peace. All right. The radiance faded. The Dragon God Core that immobilized Tang Wuling earlier had flown up and dove into the 10,000 beast platform in the sky. Tang Wuling regained his ability to move. Why? Why did you have to do this? Why didn't you tell me about this earlier? There must be something else that we can do. There must be another way. Tang Wuling loosened his grasp on the golden dragon spear and made his way to Guyuna's side in a flash. He held her in his arms. Meanwhile, Guyuna's vitality continued to fade. Her charming face was gradually turning pale, but her hands were still grasping the golden dragon spear tightly to stop Tang Wuling from pulling it away. She did nothing to prevent the golden dragon spear from devouring her life force. As the Silver Dragon King, her life force was truly too powerful. Even the golden dragon spear could not take her life within a short period of time. Guyuna gazed at him gently. This is the best ending and it is the best way to exonerate myself. I'm so tired. Let me go. Live well. You still have to wait for your father and mother's return, okay? No. Tang Wuling was already crying profusely. He held Guyuna's hand tightly and tried to pry them away, but it was not that easy to resist Guyuna's final strength. Regardless of how hard he tried, he could not get her hands off. Guyue, you know that I can't lose you. How could you be so cruel? How could you bear to leave me here alone? Guyuna shook her head gently. We represented mankind and soul beasts respectively. Only one of us can live. I can tell that you've already made up your mind to be the person that leaves, but how can I live with that? You're not as smart as me anyhow. You're always going to be my silly man. She was approaching the end of her life, yet she was still smiling sweetly as if she was not bothered by the slightest pain and regret. Say you love me, said Guyuna softly. I love you. Tang Wuling roared in rage with almost all his might. Hubby, I love you too. Guyuna finally loosened her grip on the golden dragon spear. At this very moment, her entire body had already dimmed. It was irreversible. Her long and slim palm that was already drained of blood caressed his face gently. Her eyes displayed all her love and unwillingness apart, but her silver pupils that had lost their glow. All of a sudden, her eyes widened abruptly. Poof. The other end of the golden dragon spear pierced through his chest. It had taken just a split second for him to wrap his arms around her body and hug her tightly. They would not part anymore from then on, and they would not be separated by distance from the spear's shaft anymore. Don't. Her voice had already weakened significantly. She was utterly incapable of stopping him from doing what he did anymore. The agony on Tang Wuling's face vanished. He looked at her smilingly. So this is how it feels to get your heart pierced, huh? It's only a little cold. It's not that painful actually. How can you bear to part with me and leave? You're my wife. I said before that I'll go wherever you go. If you want to leave, how can I stay here by myself? Her hands pushed against his chest in an attempt to push him away from the golden dragon spear, but how could she still muster the strength to do so in her current state? Tang Wuling hugged her tightly, and she could not struggle free whatsoever. Wuling, you still have your father and mother. You promised them that you would wait for their return. Tang Wuling shook his head gently. Father and mother still have my older sister with them. You have only me. Wuling. Guyuna's tears finally coursed down her face. She could no longer care about anything else. She used her final strength to return his hug tightly. On the other hand, her breath had also begun spilling out of her from this very moment. Tang Wuling kicked off with all his strength, taking them both into the sky with the golden dragon spear still piercing through them. As they rose higher, he held Guyuna with one hand and waved his other hand toward the sky. At once, the frozen space-time from earlier shattered. Everyone could move now. Wuling. Countless sorrowful cries were heard coming from the ground. Everyone was raising their heads to see the couple that loved each other so much yet ended up in a tragedy. Tang Wuling's eyes were calm. Actually, everything that took place today had already ended way before the final battle arrived. I wanted to use my life as the sacrifice to awaken her originally so she would give mankind a slim chance of survival. On the other hand, I wouldn't need to endure this torment anyhow, but I didn't expect that she had this plan in her mind. You heard what she said earlier too. Our Douluo continent's world can only last if mankind and soul beasts can live together harmoniously. I hope that our passing can awaken all of you so that you can abandon the obsession in your hearts. Ever since life came to exist on the continent, way too many lives of both human beings and soul beasts were lost because of one another. I hope that our death can put an end to this. This is my final request. Sister Molan and the people from Shrek Academy and the Tang sect. It's surely going to be you that drives this. Uncle Doming and Uncle Eming, if my parents come back, please ask them to forgive my lack of filial piety on my behalf. I couldn't wait until their return, but I really miss them very much. Please help me to tell them, father, mother, sister, I'm sorry. Wuling. Doming and Oming's eyes had reddened. They wanted to fly into the sky, yet it felt as if there was a gush of invisible power that locked down everything in the sky, rendering them incapable of flight. Tang Wuling shook his head toward them. No one can stop us from being together now. Not anymore. All the responsibilities and burdens are unrelated to us from now on. We belong to each other only. Everything of mine only belongs to my wife, Guyuna. As he spoke, Tang Wuling raised his hand and conjured a crystal clear pearl in his palm placed in front of his chest. At the same time, there was a flash of divine radiance in his eyes. The silver dragon spear that landed on the ground earlier suddenly turned into a ray of light that beamed its way to the front of Long Yeyu. The Soul Beast clan has a spirit seed controlled by the Dragon God Core. The silver dragon spear is given to Shrek for safekeeping. Tang Wuling and Guyuna bid farewell to all. As he spoke, his fingers clenched strenuously. The ice god pearl was shattered instantaneously before turning into a large stretch of icy mist. It engulfed Tang Wuling and Guyuna's bodies. A layer of frost began to condense on their bodies, freezing Guyuna's body that had already started to wither. Tang Wuling raised his head and howled aloud. Golden dragon moon song Tang Wuling. Silver dragon dancing killing Guyuna. Farewell, Douluo. In the next next moment, they had already transformed into a ball of icy mist. It shot out abruptly toward the north before vanishing from the sky instantaneously. Everyone on the scene watched the scene in a daze. Both the soul beasts and mankind felt as if a mountain was pressing down on their chests. The silver dragon princess Gu Yuna had fallen. The dragon emperor Douluo Tang Wulin committed suicide for love. In Tula, a crystal clear ray of light descended from the sky. It was a gigantic blob of ice with gold and silver light reflecting off each other on the inside. It landed on the northernmost core area at last, and a loud boom was heard when it burrowed into the ground. It carried the two people that left behind an indelible mark in the history of mankind and soul beasts deep into the ground. They were eternally sealed in ice. All mankind's powerhouses controlled by the spirit seeds regained their memories as if they had just awakened from a dream after Tang Wulin and Gu Yuna's departure. The soul beasts returned to the 10,000 beast platform to recuperate and rest for the time being. Both parties dispersed off. The Douluo Federation speaker Molan suppressed her sorrows and called a joint continental meeting with the numerous big human powerhouses, including those from Shrek Academy, the Tang Sect, the Warbot Hole, and the Spirit Pagoda to discuss the issues between mankind and soul beasts. 1 month later, the Douluo Federation joined the Star Luo Empire and the Dou Spirit Empire to announce the legitimacy of the soul beast's survival. They would be passing bills to provide living space for the soul beasts. The Douluo continent charted out the original area that belonged to the Great Star Dou Forest in the ancient times and presented it to the soul beasts. The Great Star Dou Forest was reconstructed with the Great Beast's land as its core. Mankind and soul beasts signed a non-aggression pact. At the same time, soul beasts were offered identity cards. Any soul beast with an identity card was equal to a human being and had legal rights just like a human. Soul beasts would need to receive the approval and authorization from the related department before leaving the Great Star Dou Forest. The soul beasts would be judged equally as humans in criminal cases. The soul beasts that had yet to be civilized and had not gained intelligence were prohibited from leaving the Great Star Dou Forest. Humans had the right to hunt and kill those that broke the laws and left the perimeter. Other than rebuilding the Great Star Dou Forest, isolated activity areas for soul beasts and mankind were constructed with the symbol of a golden and silver dragon. At the same time, bronze statues of the almighty dragon emperor Douluo Tang Wulin and silver dragon Gu Yuna were installed to commemorate these two people for sacrificing their lives for the peaceful coexistence of humanity and soul beasts. 10 years later, the preliminary construction of the Eternal Sky City was completed. Shrek Academy regained its prior glory and proved that it deserved its reputation as the #1 academy on the continent. The Eternal Sky City turned into the holy ground for all soul masters as well and replaced the Sea God's Pavilion. Shrek Academy built its Hall of Fame in the Eternal Sky City. Only 3 statues were installed inside it. The first statue was the leader of the first generation of the Shrek 7 monsters, the Sea God beyond his time, Tang San, who founded the Tang Sect, saving the world almost single-handedly and ruining the martial soul hole scheme. The second statue was the holy ice Douluo Huo Yuao who founded the Spirit Pagoda, resisted the influential Sun Moon Empire and relied on his incredible abilities to stop the Sun Moon Empire from unifying the continent so he could leave behind a foundation for the ancient Douluo continent. The final statue was the Dragon Emperor Douluo, Golden Dragon Moonsong Tang Wulin who endured hardships to return Douluo continent to its prior glory by working together with the 10,000-year plan left by the Sea God Tang San to defeat the Abyssal Plane after a great catastrophe that destroyed Shrek Academy and Shrek City. Moreover, he sacrificed himself to neutralize the threat from soul beasts and mankind, allowing the soul beasts to live peacefully. They were the most important members that represented the different eras of Shrek Academy's history. On the other hand, there was one more statue installed right at the center of the Eternal Sky City. It was respectfully known as the First Lord of the Eternal Sky City. It was the statue of the Dragon Emperor Douluo Tang Wulin who devoured the Abyssal Plane's life force using the Golden Dragon Spear to help evolve the ancient life tree into the ancient eternal tree. The energy rank of the entire Douluo star was elevated due to the evolution of the numerous limit Douluos on the Douluo continent under the silent influence of the plane. The Sea God Douluo Chanzinji, the Light Dark Douluo Long Yeyu, the Heartless Douluo Kaudaja, and the amorous Douluo Zhangxin broke through to rank 100 in succession. They were respectfully known as the real God-ranked powerhouses. There was a leap in the history of soul masters from then on. Rank 100 was no longer the highest limit for soul masters anymore. As for how far they could go, the numerous limit Douluos who made the breakthroughs had no idea either. They were also searching for an answer. Ultimately, the numerous powerhouses that broke through to rank 100 would not live eternally due to the lack of godhood tablets. However, their lifespan was elevated to 300 years. The Douluo continent continued evolving up to this point. No one knew where the end of soul masters was, at least not before the evolution was completed. In the abyss as deep as 10,000 meters in Tula, under the gigantic ice sheet, 2 bodies hugged each other tightly. An extraordinary 9-colored radiance could be seen emanating from one body's abdomen faintly. It illuminated their silhouettes and also reflected off the golden-colored sphere that connected their bodies. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.